We have to be really careful when we're talking about rises in crime in Calgary. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the criminal defense blog, which is at calgary-law.ca. And it says, overall, the crime rate in Calgary is plunging. Plunging. Crime rates of all kinds have been declining all over Canada for the past few years, and this is true in Calgary as well. A series of violent acts over the past couple of years have caused a spike in the violent crime rate, but most of those crimes are not crimes that Joe Buddy, as in you and me, are going to come into contact with. So it's really important to understand what crime stats mean and what they refer to and how they can have spikes that are not relative to the general crime rate. Calgary is a very safe city, and media reports of rises in crime are good for the media. They get eyes and ears, but they're not necessarily really representative of what things are like in this city. So don't be scared. Go outside.
Agreed. Go outside. Calgary's a safe city, ultimately. I'll let you respond to what she had to say, though.
Well, I mean, her last point is very true. Yeah. Calgary is a very safe city to live in overall. And the fact that we want people to go out and engage in the city and be good citizens in this community, that's a really important comment to make. But the numbers are, the comment around people generally would never experience crime or see this is just not true. Mm-hmm. The sort of elements that are in the city right now around drugs means that's when we experience in our homes and our businesses and our vehicles, and these are the things that people experience every day that are attributable to this new level of crime. This isn't to say that, and they're right in the essence that overall crime in North America has been on the downtrend for many years. Yep. Crime is showing up in other spaces now. It's been showing up in cyberspace, for instance, where a lot of crime is occurring outside of the police view and the public view. But these crimes that we're seeing in Calgary are new, they're here, they're real, and we are dealing with them. And I think the community expects us, a professional police service and a good, healthy community, to deal with these things responsibly. Not create fear, but deal with it responsibly.
Certainly, and in all honesty, from a citizen's perspective, I think you guys are doing a commendable job thus far. Fentanyl. I mean, obviously it's made its way to Calgary. Why is it killing so many of our citizens? Is it disguised as an MDMA, an ecstasy drug? What is it? Like, how is it that people are dying from fentanyl?
Fentanyl is such a powerful, powerful opiate. Tens of times more powerful than heroin. And the fact that what people are using on the street is not produced by a pharmaceutical company. It's not precisely measured. It's made in someone's backyard lab or someone's basement, sure. Mm-hmm. And the amount of active element or grains of salt in each tablet, if one tablet is what you require but you get two, that could be enough to slow your heart down and kill you. If it's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, how do you know how much is in each pill? Yeah. Each pill looks the same, but they are completely different. They're not made for your benefit, they're made to create profit for organized crime. And it's just so highly, highly powerful, so highly addictive. You could use it for a week, 2 weeks, a month to be fine. Take that one pill and you're done.
Spooky.
And there's no recovery from it. I mean, there's talk about some of the things we can do to help someone who's in a crisis to recover from that one pill too many, but that's not the answer. That's something that'll help you out of crisis. Your addiction remains, and having the kind of ability to deal with that addict. None of these addicts want to be addicts. Nobody who's an addict wishes or hopes to get up every day to be addicted.
No, of course
but
not.
We need to be able to provide some help for that. So.
Originally it seemed, I guess initially in Calgary, it seemed that young people were the ones that were most at risk with fentanyl. I saw a lot of deaths with, I guess, kids in the rave scene. Whatnot. Is it sort of transgressed?
That's on those ideas that things could be disguised as ecstasy or MDMA or something, but what we're seeing is a very wide demographic. Really? We can't really focus on a group. We're very concerned about young people who are being targeted by fentanyl dealers. Mm-hmm. That's a huge problem for a community, but we're seeing them across the spectrum. We're seeing older people using the drugs, we're seeing younger people using the drugs. It's in almost every aspect of the community, and that's the real odd piece about this, is that it's not like I can go to a certain area of the city and say, here are your fentanyl addicts.
Mm-hmm. Is the word getting out? I mean, are people hearing the message? Clearly not, if we're still seeing deaths.
We're we're waiting to see our statistics from Alberta Health about what the deaths really were this year. Yeah. The fact that numbers are so dramatically high over last year, it's way too early to say the message has been heard yet. I think this is going to be a persistent amount of effort between Alberta Health and the police and the communities to make sure that we have a persistent long-term message. There will be no short-term fix to this, but it can be dealt with if we're persistent and we stay on top of the core problems.
I want to shift gears a little bit. Are we still on track to have most Calgary police officers donning body cameras by early 2017?
Yep. Yeah, we just finished our beta testing towards the end of last year, making sure we're working on some of the problems in the technology. There's some software issues from time to time, or some hardware issues. Working on our policies and making sure they're functioning properly, and that's been dealt with. So we look forward to this year a more robust deployment. We're still rolling them out in phases to make sure that we understand any other issues that happen over time. But I would look forward to 2016 to be a year where we'll see more and more of those devices.
There was some perceived privacy risks in wearing the body-mounted cameras. I'm not sure I ever really bought into that side of the fence. How would you respond to some of those concerns?
I don't think they're perceived risks. They're actually real risks. I think the community, privacy in a modern community are very intimate issues. In my time, we've seen the real growth and the need to have government respect the privacy of citizens. So as soon as you adopt the cameras, that's why it took us so long to develop policies. How do you make sure that in the interest of public safety, in the interest of accountability for policing, we're not violating reasonable privacy laws, that we're working in step with privacy laws. So we work with the privacy commissioner, we work with our prosecution partners, and really sort of challenge ideas about what's reasonable, and when is it reasonable to use these devices. And it's protecting the community from the idea that we could just randomly record whoever. That we have an articulable reason why we turn these devices on. Yeah. It's linked to a crime. We're not just doing it as a lottery, just recording passerbys just because we can. So that's in your house, for instance. If we're going to come inside your house to deal with a crime, when is it appropriate to videotape?
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point. We're going to jump to our final rant pack break. Folks, stay with us.
Like most other things, crime in Calgary is pretty relative. I think unless you've actually been a victim of a crime or you live in a high crime area, you can't really judge on how everything might be warm and cozy in your world, but in somebody else's world, it's a pile of horse pocky. So I think that everybody needs to take a look at it as a whole. And when the crime actually happens to you, report it. Because if you don't report it, it doesn't get recorded in the statistics, no matter how small it may seem. I believe the Calgary Police Service has a website now where you can report break-ins to your car if nothing is on fire and it's not an emergency situation. So things like that will increase the policing presence in your community if that's what you like.
Horse pocky, love it. I think Adam, he raised a good question. I mean, I kind of want to validate that though. Is that the case? You can file obviously now non-emergency crimes online via the CPS website. Does that result in an increased officer presence in the future?
Absolutely. What Adam really pointed out was the engagement of the community. When you're involved in crime or when you're aware of crime, the fact that we can report it to somebody to somewhere, what we get from that relationship with the community is hugely important to our ability to deploy properly. Where do we need to be policing? What sort of issues do we need to be paying attention to? And how are we ensuring that we're creating value in this community? And that really comes from what Adam had just said, that we need to engage. And whether or not we can actually arrest everybody for every crime is a capacity issue, but every bit of information we get from the community is important to us and our relevance in this community.
Is the site a success? Are we seeing more people engage themselves on that website and report these crimes?
We get lots of engagement. Our social media presence is a remarkable bit of policing. The different ways that we can reach out to people and talk to people. What he was talking about is these online and capabilities for reporting crime is one way, but we have lots of aspects of the way we can reach out and hear from the community about what's going on. So.
Shifting gears again, bear with me. The legalization of marijuana is essentially right around the corner throughout all of Canada. Do we think that drug-related violence in city streets will continue to thrive? Is it going to maybe alleviate some of that violence? Or is marijuana sort of the thing of the past?
Well, I mean, our current laws around marijuana are really reflective of the legal nature of it and the overarching aspect of organized crime that's associated to marijuana. So as the government now wants to look at legalizing marijuana and starting that process, it really is for policing now to make sure that we are where we're asked, that we're at the table to discuss the issues at play, to make sure that what we're concerned about is this. who can use it, age groups, where, when, you know, the driving issues, all those sort of different things around a civil, you know, a civil community. How are we going to handle this, and how are we going to make sure people remain safe? We have good experiences in the U.S. that we can go look at. If it's in Washington State or Colorado or different places, we can really sort of evaluate were there changes to public safety that came out of this. We'll spend some time this year and look at it closely, but we'll look forward to hearing from the federal government and see where it takes us.
Has there been any, I guess, discussion amongst municipal police departments as to tax revenue? I guess my hope is that some of the tax revenue that is collected will be filtered into municipal police departments. Have you guys as a group approached the federal government about something like that?
Yeah, you know, that's always an ongoing discussion about our funding models, is how to fund us adequately. And that's like any public service, though, it's a complex conversation. Whether the money flows from the federal government or flows down from the provincial government or in through municipal government, is how do we make sure we're funding an adequate level of policing that is balanced and appropriate in a Canadian city. So that's always a discussion. We always, I think we work well with our partners, but it's, we have associations, Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police or Canadian associations. We often discuss these things. Are there different models out there? I think we're always looking at, are there different funding models available?
That's good, because to me it just makes a lot of sense. That's where some of that money should obviously go. I want to talk just real quick about the Youth Justice Act in Canada. Asking for your opinion. I mean, we've seen some pretty scary crimes. There was a 13-year-old involved in shooting-related death near Marlborough Mall in 2014. I remember reading, of course, about the machete attack, essentially unprovoked, in Coventry. These are kids. I mean, is the Youth Criminal Justice Act, in your opinion, tough enough on violent offenders?
Well, it's often kind of a red herring, that because those really violent young offenders that are doing these things likely have had a lifetime of challenges. Really what we're trying to, we spend a lot of our time focusing on what sort of things can we do at a younger age to help ensure that those people don't develop those criminogenic lifestyles, so they're out there doing those things. And I think by the time someone's a young teenager and they're really involved in serious criminal violent offenses, our opportunities to help that person are lower. But the Act is sort of set up so that remediation is still a strong feature, and that is there a possibility of helping that person break through that lifestyle. Those are big challenges. Youth at risk problems like that are big challenges, but I think in terms of early intervention pieces and education for young families, we do a lot of work to now, as we'll persist for the next few years, making sure we're helping them at a younger age. So maybe we can, as you, funny enough, any of those people, if you actually deconstruct them going backwards, you can see where they've run across afoul of the health system, the education system, policing or justice, yet none of those pieces necessarily talk to each other very much. And we're working on programs to make sure we're all at the table together. You know, that maybe if we see high-risk people, how we helping them out at a younger age, so we can maybe just get those people out of that lifestyle before they become teenagers.
You know, and it's tough to hear that about the communication amongst different organizations. I mean, it's 2016. We have so many different avenues of communication in front of us. I understand a lot of it's, you know, probably bureaucracy. Is a bit of that. Does it wear on you? Does it get a little frustrating at times?
Oh, it's frustrating, but it's not so frustrating that you don't do it. It just means you have to persist and keep at the table. And I think we've seen, you know, in Calgary particularly, if you look at our Child Advocacy Center, is a huge functional model about how health and justice and social services all work together around looking after the family and the child. And these are business practices that were not in this province or in the city just a few years ago. But people see if we work together, if you share information together, if you work together on the same problems, what great successes you can have. And it's a remarkable feature of Calgary having a center like that and showing how that works. They're not just doing it to, you know, receive funding. These people, they all work together to make sure that their interest is that child and that family. And it's really an amazing piece for the city to see. So.
Final word real quick. The CPS enjoys usually a 90% approval rating. Besides people letting the CPS know that yes, they approve, what can they do to show a little appreciation for the Calgary Police Service?
They show us appreciation every day. The way our officers experience the public on an everyday basis tells us the community appreciates what we do, and we appreciate the community. So I think this is as a career, it's a great career to work in. It's a great city to police, and the kind of support we get is the envy of most places. And this is a great career opportunity for young people. So.
Fantastic. Again, thanks so much for your time, folks. That's all the time we have tonight. As per usual, you can get at us on Facebook or on Twitter as well. Don't be a stranger. Until next time, take care.